Welcome to Guwahati MuleSoft Meetup group. The topic for today's meetup is Anypoint CloudHub 2.0 overview, and the speaker for our meetup is Ashish Padi. So we thanks to Ashish for taking our invite and guiding us with such a important and innovative topic today. Thank you, Ashish, for that. Uh,
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Abhishek. Okay, so this is Cloud 2.0 is the buzzword right now in the MuleSoft community. So we are going to
yeah.
see what all things in allocated time frame, how much we can cover from the Cloud 2.0. So most of the stuff will be live demos. Okay, and then we'll jump onto the slides. Okay, so over to you, Abhishek.
Yeah, thank you. So I will just introduce myself. So I'm the organizer for Guwahati MuleSoft Meetup Group. I'm a MuleSoft ambassador working as an associate solution architect at Epicero. I have overall of 7+ years of experience and 5 years in MuleSoft. I'm a certified developer architect. I lead Lucknow group as well. I'm a frequent speaker. I write blogs, create tutorial videos. That's all about me. Over to you, Ashish.
Hey, thanks again. Okay, so I'm working as a MuleSoft architect in Epicero. Okay, with Abhishek. I have around 11.5 years of experience in industry. Out of that, 10 years in integration domain. Out of that, 6+ five plus experience in MuleSoft. Okay, I'm a MuleSoft certified level 2, both architects. I'm a delivery champion also, and I'm leading Coimbatore MuleSoft Meetup group, and I'm also a frequent a speaker. I love that part. So that's about me. Yeah.
Okay. Reading.
So
Yeah, you can continue, Ashish.
okay,
Sure.
okay. So I'll read this harbor statement. So both speaker and organizations, we are organizing this kind of meetups on our individual capacity. So we are not representing our company here. This is not for any promotional activity. uh, the presentation whatever we are going to show now and after, this will just for the learning point of view. Okay, so if some things are not working, because cloud 2.0 still in update mode. Okay, so a lot of things are in roadmap, so in future things will be adding, get added, updated. So we'll recommend always, and we usually recommend to go to the documentation. Okay, and refer the documentation for your use case. Okay, if this whatever demos we have shown, if not work, you can go ahead, always go to the documentation and look for more detailed stuff. Housekeeping item, as Abhishek mentioned, we'll be recording this session, so please provide your consent and in the chat. Okay, and that recording will be available on Meetup page within 24 hours. We love to have more questions. Okay, so from audience side, please make it more interactive. Abhishek already gave the mic to most of the people. If somebody wants to have mic or somebody wants to ask question, have those questions in the chat or directly on the mic. Okay, we'll try to answer. And since, as I mentioned, this is a new topic. Okay, few things are still there in the roadmap, so we'll try to get the answers for that. Okay, last point, which is very important, which is like a bread and butter for every or meetup groups. Give your feedback. Okay, and let us know what's went well, what's you're expecting in a future session. So we'll plan accordingly. Maybe you can mention the topics, maybe you can mention about the speaker, you can mention about the meetup group. So, as a agenda for today's session, we are going to talk about almost all the feature of Cloud 2.0. Okay, so we'll talk about what is shared space, private space. We'll try to deploy the application to private space using Maven. Okay, so we'll try to use Maven, Mule Maven plugin to deploy the application from our command line to our private space. We'll try to see how we can add the secure or protected properties. How easy to add this? Do we need any extra stuff to this? Okay, we'll talk about the private space configuration, where we'll configure the ingress load balancer. We'll talk about port forwarding, how we can add multiple TLS context for custom domains. That we'll also see. We'll see how last mile security help us to run our applications on HTTPS. We'll talk about the deployment models like rolling, update, and recreate. We'll talk about scaling. We'll talk about clustering and many more. Okay, If you have planned to migrate to CloudHub 2.0, we'll see what are things you should consider, okay, when you are thinking about migrating. So definitely we'll give you a lot of time to, explore CloudHub 2.0 and then plan to migrate it to it. Okay. So that's the agenda for today. So why we need CloudHub 2.0? In these four core elements, we can describe the CloudHub 2.0. Seen in simple word, or the simple definition of CloudHub 2.0 is nothing but, I say in one word, it's a MuleSoft maintained or controlled RTF. Okay, so it's the Cloud 2.0 infrastructure. Under the hood, it's completely runtime fabric. Okay, and it's backed up by AWS EKS. So whatever infrastructure we'll be getting for Cloud 2.0 in terms of shared space, in terms of private space, everything will be AWS EKS cluster. Okay, so we can as compared to cloud of 1.0, we can start quickly in cloud of 2.0, because we'll be getting a intuitive UI in runtime manager, where in one flow we can configure our private space, we can configure our domains, we can configure our ingress load balancer, we can configure firewall rules. In one shot we can configure everything, VPN, transit gateway. So that's how the UI is provided for our cloud of 2.0. Okay, it's very lightweight because the under the hood we are using a Kubernetes container based solution, where our Mule applications will be getting deployed. Each instance of our Mule application will be deployed in a different pod, in a different region, different availability zones, and all will be isolated. We have here, as I mentioned, the UI, it will take you to the different steps. So those are streamline operations. You can configure VPNs, you can configure transit gateway, you can have your firewall rules, you can have your the custom domain TLS context you can upload. So in one flow, we can configure our entire Cloud 2.0 if you wanted to have some restricted environment. If you are not really concerned about the security, you can go ahead even with the shared space. Okay, here in Cloud 2.0, the security is at high priority here, because whatever you're storing, whether it's a property, whether it's a certificate, whether it's your TLS context, everything will be encrypted by the MuleSoft itself. Okay, that is default provided by MuleSoft. One more thing, if you go back to the Cloud 2.0, 1.0, where there is no control on outgoing traffic. So whether it's from your shared VPC or your dedicated VPC, there is no control. You cannot control the outgoing traffic from your space. Okay, here they have given a solution for that. They have given outbound traffic firewall rules. We can write those rules and you can control the traffic. So we'll see the demo on that. Okay, so if you wanted to allow only outgoing traffic on HTTPS, we can control that via our UI itself. Okay, there are other things which are added in Cloud of 1.0. If you go back, renewing your dedicated load balancer for certificates are very tedious job. Okay, now here, recently one person wrote the blog, I share that we can have a scheduled job which can connect to your domain provider. It will check whether your certificates are renewed. It will download those certificates. It will use the CloudHub 2.0 APIs to upload those certificates to your private space and renew your ingress load balancer certificates and your TLS content basically. Okay, automatically without any hassle. Okay, so you need to have that configuration. I'll share that link how we can do that. That's a really important job for our DevOps teams. They need to monitor whether the certificates are getting expired soon or whatever. So they need to monitor that. Now that process also you can automate in case of Cloud 2.0. So that's about the Cloud 2.0. Instead of going forward, what I'll do, I'll jump onto the demo part. We'll look at the architecture over there. We'll look at all the features. We'll try to compare it to 1.0, and then we'll come back to the slides. Hope that works for everyone. Are you recording the session, Abhishek?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm recording.
Okay. Okay, so let's jump on to the demo part. Okay. So basically we'll be focusing on our runtime manager, but we'll be touching other part also. So if you guys are working on Anypoint platform, everybody knows that now MFA is enabled on all the accounts, right? So multi-factor authentication. Now to interact from your Anypoint CLI or from your Maven, you need to have connected app now. Okay. So first thing, prerequisite, we'll set up all those prerequisite, and then we'll start deploying it. Okay. So what I have created for to save the time, because few things takes time. Okay. So let's quickly go. First prerequisite is we need to create our a connected app. So we'll go to our access management, and first we'll create the connected app. So if I go to connected app, okay, so create app, we'll be creating connected app which behaves or act on behalf of us. Okay, so client credentials will be provided by this app to us, so that we can interact with our Anypoint platform. So we'll be, as I mentioned, we'll be interacting with the runtime manager. Okay, and in case of CloudHub 2.0, the deployment process works in two phases. Because if you remember the runtime fabric, whatever we do in runtime fabric, same kind of deployment process will be using over here. So first we'll be uploading the asset to the exchange. So that means I need to have contribute access to the exchange, and I should have deployment access to the runtime manager. With these two, we need, if you are using connected app, okay, if you have already worked with the connected app, we need to have access to design center also. Okay, so these three things we need to provide here as a scope, and then we need to create our connected app. So I have already created for you guys. So if you look at, very simple. So runtime manager specific scopes, for the demo point of view, I have added auto scope. Depends on your requirement, what exactly you want to do in runtime manager, you can go ahead and add only those scopes. So runtime manager is one. Second one is our exchange. So again in exchange, I have added all three scopes, and finally design center. So only three areas I'm touching as part of this connected app. Okay. So once you create this connected app, you will get the client ID and client secret. We'll use this client ID and client secret at one place. I'll tell you what is that. Okay. Now, since our connected app is ready, our part is done. We'll close this. Now we go back to our runtime manager. So today's session will focus on our private space. Okay, so if you wanted to see how we can do it in shared space, so I did that session in last meetup. You can go to the Coimbatore meetup, and you can see that how we can deploy to the shared space. So here again, creating private space sometimes takes more than half an hour. Okay, so I have created that also to save time. So if you look at my screen, okay, so what I have done, I have created a private network for my private space, where I have mentioned my CIDR block. So you need to, again, you can compare this private space with the dedicated VPC in case of CloudHub 1.0. There also we mentioned the CIDR block for our data center. So you be, whenever you are selecting the CIDR block, you need to be very thoughtful. You know how big this CIDR block should be. Okay, so in future, if you want to scale your network, or you wanted to deploy more applications, this CIDR block should be enough for that. Okay, because recreating VPC, recreating private space is expensive process. Okay, so you need to delete everything and then recreate everything back. Okay, so that's the challenge. So when you are creating it, you go ahead and please select proper CIDR block, proper region. Okay, so in one region you can create n number of private space. We'll see that n is countable. Okay, so how big or how many private space you can create in one region, we'll see that. Okay, so there are limitations. We'll talk about those limitations later in the slides. Now, if you look at two things, these two things are really, really important. Okay, so one is public DNS target and private DNS target. These are by default provided by us. provided by MuleSoft to us. Okay, how? So if you look at this template, it's very easy. Okay, so I have created this private space in Asia Pacific Southeast one, which is Singapore. Okay, so I have created this private space in this region. So if you see here, Singapore Southeast. So now the naming of the region is little different over here. Now they are using IGPS1, or in case of CloudHub 1.0, it was like US-E1, US-E2, like that. Now they are giving USA here and then E1 or E2, like that. Okay, so the naming is little different. Now they are using 3 characters over here. Okay, in place of country. Now something is there which is unique here. Okay, so this part is nothing but the shard ID. So shard is nothing but your region is splitted into different private space, and each private space will get a unique ID that is called shard ID, because you're sharding your region in a different pieces, that each piece will be identified by this ID called shard ID. Okay, so this is your public DNS target, and every private space will have internal DNS address also. So why we need this, we'll talk about it later, but just internal hyphen will be prefixed to your public DNS target. This is kind of similar to your CloudHub 1.0, where you will get public URL for your Mule workers, private URL for your Mule workers. So kind of same, but the naming here is little different. Now last two, which are again helpful to control the traffic. Okay, so the incoming traffic and outgoing traffic we can control via inbound static IPs and outbound static IPs. So these numbers you can see on my screen right now, there's a three, and these are static IPs. These you cannot change. Okay, these are coming, these are populated by default, and these numbers based on your regions available and availability zones. Okay, so these are based on your region, and inside the region how many availability zones are available. This number you cannot change or customize. Okay, now we can use these static IPs. So let's say in past I was having one use case where there was a SFTP server which was allowing only the whitelisted IP address. So I was sending traffic from my VPC to that SFTP server, and that guy was rejecting my traffic. So I was not having any public IP address to whitelist over there. Okay, so if you create your VPC, right, you'll be creating with your CIDR block, okay, which is private IP addresses. You cannot give that CIDR block to them. Okay, and in few scenarios, whitelist allow you only the single IP address or two IP address or like that. Sometimes it won't allow CIDR block. So now in CloudHub 2.0 we have egress, okay, ingress as well as egress natting, and that egress nat will use this static IPs to whenever you're sending traffic from your private space, your traffic will be identified by these IP addresses. Okay, so these three IP addresses will be used to identify your traffic on that target SFTP server. So you can use this outbound static IPs to whitelist over there, and then your traffic will be smoothly accessible or allowed in the, on that external target server. Okay, we can create a connection. These connections are nothing but VPN and transit gateway. Now in CloudHub 2.0, VPC pairing is not allowed, AWS direct is not allowed. Okay, and that is not going to get supported at all. Okay, so only VPN and transit gateway will be used to configure your or to access your private data centers. So either you can use VPN or transit gateway. So I don't have license for that. Let me show you the diagram how it looks. So if you look at my screen, hope you are able to see my screen. So this part we have already discussed, where we talked about region, we talked about CIDR block, we talked about DNS target, private, and inbound and outbound static IPs. Now here you can attach your private space to the transit gateway in the same region. If your transit gateway is there in the same region, you can attach your private space. same restrictions the way we have in CloudHub 1.0. If those are there in same region, then only you can attach to your private space to your AWS transit gateway. Now, one good thing about VPN here, by default, we are getting high availability on VPN. So we can create redundant VPN for your existing VPN. So during maintenance in Cloud 1.0 right now, what we see during the maintenance of VPN will be down. Okay. And we'll be facing downtime over there, right? Now in Cloud 2.0, we can have two set of VPNs. One is redundant, one is your actual. If you are doing maintenance on your primary VPN, then your secondary VPN, that redundant VPN, will be working for you. Okay, so there won't be any downtime during your maintenance. This is the advantage we are getting it with the redundant VPN. When you create redundant VPN, automatically it inherits all the properties of your VPN, like your remote IP address, your routing type. Okay, all these things will be inherited by your redundant VPN. Okay, any questions on this part? Your your private space network part. Any questions on
We
this?
have two questions. One from
Yeah.
Shubham. Are there any reserved IPs in this CIDR block or whole of it is available?
Cider block reserved IP means what? The reserved IP means you're saying something used for the infrastructure level. What do you mean by reserved IPs?
Hi Ashish. So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, for example, when we for example in AWS, when we create a VPC, right? So we assign a
Mhm.
CIDR block to
Okay.
it. So like some of the IP addresses are reserved for internal purpose, right? But do we
Okay.
have that here?
Yeah, I understand what's your point is, but reserved IP. So few IPs will be used for your infrastructure from here, like for your ingress load balancer, it has to get deployed on some IPs, right? So those, but explicitly you cannot mention that these IP addresses are reserved for this private space. You cannot see. So few IP addresses from there will be used for your infrastructure point of view. Okay, that's why when we are thinking about a CIDR block, right? We have a formula, right? How many APIs you are going to deploy under this private space. So we generally go with the thumb rule. If you know the networking part, right? How the CIDR block is getting used. So one thing is, whatever CIDR block you are going to use, that should not be overlapping any other CIDR block in your network, in your corporate network. Otherwise, unnecessarily you are wasting those overlapped IP addresses. So you need to have unique set of IP addresses here, set of, I mean, the range of IP addresses. That is one thing. Second thing is, you need to go with that thumb rule, 10 into number of APIs. Okay, that's how you use. So from there, each each worker over here will get the not worker here, pod. Okay, so each pod will get different, I mean, to get that zero downtime, every pod will have two IP addresses. Okay, so whenever you restart, okay, there is no, okay, one more thing, there is no restart option in CloudHub 2.0. You need to stop and start. There is no restart, just like our CloudHub 2.0, we don't have restart option over here, start or stop. So when you are going with there are two deployment models. Yes, we are going to talk about it: rolling update and recreate. So if you are going with the rolling update, it will use two static or two private IP addresses. To first, the existing pod will be as it is. A new pod will be created on new IP that will get assembled for you. It's ready. Once it is ready and ready to accept the request, the first pod will go off. Okay, so you cannot mention explicitly, but yes, from this CIDR block, few will be reserved for handling the zero downtime, handling the high availability. Everything will be taken care by this CIDR block.
Okay, so are these like inbound static IPs and outbound static IPs? Like
No, these are not. These static IPs are different. Okay, so you can see that clearly here. See, these are not coming from my 10.1.0.0. See, these are static IPs. These are public IPs. Public. Okay, whatever CIDR block I have mentioned, these are private IPs. Hope that is clear.
right? Okay.
So if I go ahead and say, let's look up for this particular guy, right? That, okay, let's do that. Copy this. Okay, let's go to the command line. I was about to do that, but let's do it. Now, if I bring my command line here, so you say ns look up. This is a command you can use. See here, IP address is coming from my CIDR block. Now, if I remove that internal from there, let's do this. See, these are public addresses. See, these are not coming from my CIDR range. So now you can say that, okay, boss, these IP addresses are reserved for my internal ingress load balancer. Clear? Every load balancer will have two URLs. Okay, one is public URL, one is private URL. So your private URL always point to your CIDR block range. See a 10.1.2.10.1. See here, these are coming from your CIDR block, but these are not coming from your CIDR block. These are public address, these are private address. Hope that is clear to you.
Yeah, very much.
Inbound IP, inbound static IPs are different. Outbound static IPs are different. Even if you are buying static IPs for your applications, those are out of your CIDR range. Static IPs never be private. Keep that in mind. Okay, clear?
Yep. Thanks for explaining this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more
Ashish,
question. Mr. Abhishek. Yeah, one
yeah,
more.
Anish, he is asking how many static IPs will be provided for one CIDR block.
Come on, again, it's confusing.
How many
CIDR
static?
block is different. CIDR block is always private IP addresses. Static IPs are always public IP addresses. There is, okay, so right now here, right, we are getting these static IP addresses. So for incoming traffic, we'll be using these static IPs. For outgoing traffic, we'll be using these static IPs. If you want a specific IP, static IP for your specific Mule application, then you need to create a separate private space for that. Okay, so if you are not if these three IP addresses are not enough, then you need to keep on creating private space for you. Okay, app level, here you cannot give static IPs here. Again, I'm very clear over here. Only at private space level you can use static IPs. You cannot go at because the concept is little different here. You are not getting worker here. We are getting pods. Okay, clear? So for incoming traffic, these are the static IPs. For outgoing traffic, these are the static IPs. All your Mule applications deployed in your private space will be using these static IPs. For incoming traffic, for outgoing traffic. If you want a specific, so let's say you want you have one application and that you are saying that use these IP addresses. Okay, no other applications should use these static IPs. So then you need to create a private space dedicated to that Mule application and keep it. Okay, here there is no option to assign static IPs to Mule application. Am I clear?
Yes, Ashish.
CIDR block level, no static IPs. This is completely private. Okay, and static IPs are always public. Now, one thing here you see, we have not configured. What is this internal DNS server? Any idea, guys? Internal DNS. There is a public, there is a private. Then what is the difference between internal and private? Any idea? Anybody from the crowd? What is this internal DNS server? Did you see this in the CloudHub 1.0? Abhishek, I won't be able to see that screen if somebody is giving answer.
No, no, no. No one is giving
Okay.
answer.
Okay, let me quickly tell you. Okay, so now let's say you have data center, and inside the data center you have, let's say, legacy system or database, and that is hosted on some DNS, let's say abc.com. That is not publicly available. Okay, so abc.com is your internal DNS. Now, if your private space want to connect that, then you need to mention that over here. You need to configure that. You need to mention that IP addresses to that belongs to that particular server, whichever the database server is, and you need to mention those over here. And this concept was there in the CloudHub 1.0 also. In VPC, we used to mention internal DNS over there. So the DNS which is not publicly available, accessible, that is called internal DNS. Okay, and the private DNS which we are talking about, this is to access within your private space. Within your private space, if you want to access some Mule application, okay, we'll see this demo also. This is the URL will be used. This is the domain will be used to access that app internally within my private space. out of my private space, which is private to your data center. So for example, some database which is deployed or which is hosted on your internal server. The internal server domain name is, let's say, abc.com. Definitely abc.com is not publicly available, right? So from your private space, if you want to access that abc.com, then that has to be listed down over here. That has to be configured over here. Clear? Then only your private space will understand or resolve that domain name. Otherwise, it won't. It will try to see on the public internet that domain name. Okay, and it won't be able to find that abc.com. Clear to everyone?
Yeah, one more question from Subham again,
Yes.
like how large the CIDR block is allowed here, /12 or 16?
So same cider block, whatever rules are there in the cloud of 1.0/24 till /16. Okay. Same, it's equivalent to VPC, guys. Okay, because when you are planning to migrate your cloud of 1.0 to cloud of 2.0, it's exactly same space. You'll get it on the private space. Okay, equivalent to a VPC. Whatever is allowed in VPC, that same thing will be allowed here. Cider range. But those won't get automatically converted to your private space. You need to delete that. You need to recreate it. As it is, it won't get. As I mentioned. Clear? Any more questions?
No, Ashish.
Okay. Now let's look at the second tab, domains and TLS. So as I mentioned, if you clearly look at, see, this is the domain. See here, we are getting it right. See, internal hyphen, same thing, which is provided by our MuleSoft, and this is freely available. There is something called Let's Encrypt. Okay, that guy will give you for 90 days. So this is what is getting used. MuleSoft is using that free domain provider. Let's Encrypt. Okay, so I'll try to show. Somebody wrote the good blog over here, Medium blog. So I'll mention this to please go ahead and have a look at it. For let me mention this in the chat. This link. Okay. Okay, so please read this. This is what I was talking about. We can create a scheduler job to keep on monitoring your load balancer certificates. Okay, for renewal. Okay, so there is a script called acme.sh over there. There is a provider called Let's Encrypt. So Acme, that shell script, right? That has a capability to connect to your provider as well as via CloudHub APIs. It has the capability to connect to your Anypoint platform also. So it will be keep on monitoring your DNS provider. Okay, and it will keep on monitoring whether the certificates are renewed or not. And then from there, if it is renewed, automatically download it. Okay, and it will via CloudHub API, CloudHub 2.0 API, it will upload that certificate to your in-place load balancer, and it will send you the notification also. Okay, so that's what written in the Medium. I'll recommend everyone to please go through that Medium blog. Okay, let's go back to our yeah. So now, other than that default TLS, we can upload our custom domain TLS context. Okay, we can upload n number of here. So how to do that? You can go ahead and I'll tell you. First, we need to create the .pem files. Okay, so we can create .pem files, one for public certificate, one for private key. And how to create? So please follow this document, MuleSoft document, how to create that those certificates. I'll mention this also in the chat. You can bookmark this link. Okay, so once you go here, either you can create this config file where you can see you're creating it for your common name called example.com, and this certificate only works for app1.example.com and app2.example.com, this certificate. Okay, but if let's say you have requirement of more DNS. Okay, so for example, in non-prod environment, you'll be having dev.example.com, test.example.com, uat.example.com, and you wanted to have only one certificate for these guys. So we can create wildcard certificate. Okay, so how to create wildcard certificate? You can see here. Simple. You will create this config file. Okay, and then copy this content and change this content, your country name, your state name, your locality, your organization, and whatever name you wanted to give, you can go ahead and give. So I have created multiple certificates for that. So I created for Coimbatore Mule Meetup. So I'll show you the file. It looks like this. Okay, I didn't change these names, but I make sure that I am creating this domain. Okay, I created one more for my channel. So this is all these certificates are self-signed. Okay, you can create this and then upload it to your private space domain and TLS section. So let's do that. Let's upload. Go here and say upload PAM. You can give a name over here. So I'll just say okay. Let's upload first public certificate. You can go ahead and upload public certificate. So go to CloudHub 2.0 certificates, and this is a public one. Okay, so you can see here, choose private key. Okay, so I didn't use a password for this, so I just keep blank. Now this section is really important. Okay, everyone please look at this. So now I have uploaded the custom domain TLS over, right? Now if I'm triggering via this domain or this URL, it should reach my private space, right? It should reach my DNS. So now very simple process here. Once you upload it, okay, you go to your provider, okay, whoever is your DNS provider, log into that DNS provider and create this DNS record. Okay, so DNS record type should be CNAME, host name should be star, and value should be this one. This is your public DNS target. Hope you remember this. I have mentioned this, right? This is shard ID, this is your region, and this is your cloudhub.io. So in this block, he has mentioned that also. Okay, so if you go down, how it looks. Okay, so down somewhere. Okay, so your DNS record. So since he's getting DNS from his Acme hyphen, oh sorry, DNS provider somewhere, I don't know what's the name is. So let's encrypt. He's getting DNS from let's encrypt. Okay, and the MuleSoft also getting it from there. So they are giving free for 90 days. You can go ahead and buy it from here. So now if you look at the DNS record, how it looks, record type is CNAME here, the host name is star, and the target name is whatever he is giving, right? And then this is TTL is auto. Just ignore this part. But this is how you will be creating a record over there. Okay. Once you create this record, it sometimes takes time. Okay. So once that time period, like so, it may take 24 hours. Okay, based on the availability, based on the infrastructure availability, it will do that mapping. And once you do that mapping via these URLs, I'll show you how the URL looks like. Okay, so once you do this mapping, you'll be able to reach via this kind of URL. So once we deploy application, we'll be able to select multiple public URL for your API. One by default will get with this DNS target. Since I have uploaded two custom DNS TLS context, I can have one public URL with this domain. I can have public URL with this vanity. We call it vanity URLs. Okay, vanity domains. Merstack.com or CoimbatorMuleMeetup.com. These are my vanity. As per my requirement, as per my DNS availability, I can use a public. I can have multiple public URLs. So for one client, I can give one URL. For another client, I can give another URL. Okay, so more sorted URLs we can have. Any questions on this? Okay, there is a limit on this. We'll see how many custom TLS domain we can upload it here. Okay, so there is a limit also here. Any questions on this, Abhishek, in this part?
No question till now.
Right, so hope that DNS CNAME mapping record, everybody is now clarity on that. If you don't if still having confusion, I may already mention, right, go through this and you'll get clear picture of what is CNAME mapping I'm talking about. Okay, So whoever gave you a DNS, your DNS name, on that server only, that provider only, you need to go and create that CNAME mapping. Okay, hope that is clear. Okay, now third tab is your firewall rules. Okay, so right now if you see, there are no firewall rules here. Okay, so your CloudHub 2.0 only allow HTTP traffic, whether it's HTTP or HTTPS. So it won't allow you any other traffic other than HTTP and HTTPS. Okay, so you can configure here incoming firewall rules and outgoing firewall rules also. This outgoing firewall rules was not there in our CloudHub 1.0. Okay, so now I can say add this rule. I'll say HTTPS, go ahead anywhere. And now I wanted to set that, okay, my outgoing traffic should go on HTTPS only. I don't want to send any plain text traffic from my private space to the outside world. So what I can do, I can copy, I can configure here. So now outgoing traffic can go on any protocol. You can see here, now we have so many options, but here we don't have, we have only HTTP and HTTPS. Okay, so incoming only HTTP, outgoing it can be anything. Okay, so from on this protocol, go on anywhere. Okay, the port number by default is 443 for HTTPS. Hope this is clear to everyone. Save these changes. Okay, now third tab we have. Okay, any questions on this tab, Abhishek?
No, no questions.
Inbound traffic rules, outgoing, outbound traffic firewall rules. Okay, environments. Based on your requirement, you can select environments and map it. I have only one environment, so I don't need to mention anything over here. Now let's jump onto the advanced tab. So if you go to the advanced tab, these properties are exactly similar to the dedicated load balancer properties. Okay, so let me recap. In dedicated load balancer, we used to have three radio buttons over there. Okay, one is to redirect to HTTPS, one is to accept HTTP as it is, and one is to drop if the traffic is coming on HTTP. Either accept it, redirect to HTTPS, or drop it. Three options we have. Okay, so we'll always go with the default redirect to HTTPS. Now this is a default 300 seconds. What is this timeout? Your CloudHub 2.0 will wait for your pod to get the response from there, and from your sorry, increase load balancer to your pod, the response time on the expectation, expectation for response is 300 seconds. Okay, if the response didn't come even after 300 seconds, you throw error 504 gateway timeout. Okay, 504. Now we have one rich feature over here. In our dedicated load balancer in CloudHub 1.0, we don't have option to download dedicated load balancer logs. We have option here to download ingress load balancer logs now. Okay, so we can go ahead and download it. We can set the default log level here. We can add the custom log levels, and we can add IP address and set the debug logs. Okay. Now, very important part here is this downloading logs of the load balancer and this one. We can enable our AWS service role over here. So if you have AWS account and you have resources over there, now you want those resources should be available or accessible from your private space, then you can go ahead and enable this. And you can add our role over here. You can add unique service role over here, and then your private space will be able to access those resources from your AWS account. One of the resource could be your transit gateway. That is a resource from AWS. Okay, so you can add that service role over here and then access the resources from your AWS account. Okay, so I don't have that role, so I'm not going to add anything over here. Okay, hit this. So this advanced tab, everybody's now clear. Any questions on this tab?
No question on the chat. Guys, anyone have any question?
Okay. So if there are no questions, we'll take first demo where we'll be deploying application from our Maven to our private space. Okay. So first prerequisite we already done, which is our connected app, because
Ashish, you there? Is it for everyone? Can't hear Ashish.
Yeah, it's for
Yes.
everyone.
Okay, let me check with him. Sorry guys, he's connecting back. He just got some power issue. Yeah, Ashish.
Hey, I'm extremely sorry, guys.
No worries,
Okay,
no
so
worries,
there
no
was a
worries.
power cut immediate. Okay, I connected via mobile also. Okay, anyway, so let me go back. What we have covered so far. So let me share my screen. Hope the recording will still continue. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's quickly go to our yeah. So first requisite prerequisite was connected app. Now second prerequisite is to create setting.xml. Okay, so our setting.xml will be having this format. So let me go quickly. Since we are using now connected app credentials, so our setting.xml will look like this. So I have already created. I don't want to show the client ID and client secret. So please make a note of it. So setting.xml should look like this. Okay. So client ID, client secret. Okay. So I have created this setting.xml also for you. Okay. So now let's go back to our Anypoint Studio and quickly what I'll do is I'll try to show the first demo, which is on deploying application from here to our. Okay, so the meanwhile my studio is getting loaded. I'll quickly show you one thing. So as I mentioned, our CloudHub 2.0 deployment works in two phases. Okay, so first one, it will upload the assets to the exchange. Now where we can see that assets. Okay, so you can go ahead and look at this URL. I'll ping that in the chat. So you can have a look for the our assets, okay, which are getting used in our deployment model. So even if it is a runtime fabric or if it is a cloud 2.0, all all the assets which are getting used in your runtime plane, those will be uploaded first over here. Okay, so right now these are default. I have not uploaded anything here. So this URL, you can make a note of it, and I'll go back here. You can see those assets over there. Okay, so My studio is still getting loaded. Let me. Okay. So okay. So I have very simple, app, which is kind of hello world app. So I have message over here. Come on. Whenever you need a quick response, right? Something will.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So this is a transform activity. Very simple message I have here. This is what I'm expecting once the deployment is done. Now let's focus on what all we need. Okay. So we need to configure a pom.xml in such a way that the same pom.xml will be used for deployment to the runtime plane and upload your asset to your exchange also. So let's look at this pom.xml. So I'll maximize it. Hope everybody is able to see this. Okay. I hope Abhishek it's visible.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, let me.
Also,
So
I
first
shared like
thing,
how to do a full screen. So if anyone want, can do a full screen of their presentation. Yeah.
yeah, okay, and okay. So first change in your pom.xml, you need to make it get the group ID. Okay, so most of us are aware of how to get this group ID, right? If you're not aware of it, you can quickly go to your Anypoint platform here and simply click on this Anypoint platform. In the URL, you will see that ID. So whoever are new, you can get this value from here. So that is what I have taken it from here. See, so 0A205. So if I go to my pom.xml, 0A205. Okay. So this is the first change you need to make. Second change, we need to configure our Mule Maven plugin. Now for CloudHub 2.0, our Mule Maven plugin is updated. Okay. So if you create a pom.xml, if I open any other project pom.xml for just to show you, okay, so any other pom.xml, you'll get a Mule Maven plugin version. This is 3.5.4. This version is not going to work with the CloudHub 2.0. We need to have at least 3.7.x. Whatever you can have here, you can go ahead and have it, but it has to be 3.7 dot something. Okay, so this Mule version is not going to work, so we need to upgrade it to a 3.7 dot. That is the second change. Okay, so go ahead, either update value over here or you can hard code it here itself. So I'll open it again in this. Okay, so you don't need to mug up all this thing again. You can go ahead and go to the MuleSoft documentation. I always prefer to have MuleSoft documentation, so you can go ahead and configure your okay. So go to CloudHub 2.0 here, and you can go ahead and say deploying apps to, or open the Mule Maven plugin CloudHub deployment. Okay. Here it will give you option. Okay, so here if you open it, this one also I'll share in the chat. All these links you can keep it. Okay, so let me go back. So here you can see the content given over here. Okay, so you can copy paste inside your pom.xml and then configure it. So I have copied complete plugin over here. Okay, and let me explain that. So it will show you CloudHub 2 deployment. For CloudHub 1.0, it's a CloudHub deployment only. Now for Cloud 2.0, it's CloudHub 2 deployment. First property is fixed. Even if you don't pass it, it's optional property. It will take anypoint.mulesoft.com always. Even if I delete it here, it will work. Okay. Second property is provider, which is Mule container. That means your application is going to get deployed in Mule container, Kubernetes Mule container. Okay. Environment, I'm going to deploy under my sandbox. So this is the environment. I'm hard coding that one. This is really important. Okay. So if you are deploying the application in shared space, so for shared space, you'll get a static name over there with your shared space. There will be a name. That name you need to use here. Right now, I'm planning to deploy inside my private space. I'm using my private space name, which is my MMA-space. If I go to my private space right now, it will show you that name. So if you go to runtime manager, okay. So please make a note of this, what all things we need. So if you go to the private space, whatever name I'm using here, use this name. For shared space, that shared space, you'll get a name, something like, once you deploy any application, we'll see if we get a time, we'll deploy to shared space and I'll show you the name, how it looks. If you want to see, in the last meetup, I did it to the shared space. So you'll be able to see there. Okay. So you can go ahead and see over there. Okay. Let's come back. Now, Mule version, your CloudHub 2.0 only works with the Mule runtime, which is 4.3.0 and above. It won't work with 4.1 or 4.2. No, it works above 4.3.0. So make sure your Mule version is above 4.3.0. So I'm using latest one. Then I'm going to use setting.xml. So this is the ID. I'm using it from my setting.xml. Okay. So if you, I show you, right, whatever value you're passing here in the ID section, you can get that value and you can add it here with the tag called server. I'm going to access that server with this ID value. So there I mentioned the client ID and client secret for my connected app. Now the application name, as it is, you can give some unique name over here. Okay. Then replica, I wanted to apply to one, deploy to one replica, and core, I am going with 0.1 vCore. Minimum in CloudHub 2.0 is 0.1. I know in runtime fabric it's 0.02. Okay. Still, even we are using runtime fabric infrastructure, but the minimum vCores are 0.1 here. Okay. Now this is important. Okay. So we can pass n number of properties here. Now we can pass secure properties also. If you go back to the CloudHub 1.0, if you want to pass a secure property, something like the property which should not be visible in runtime manager, some kind of mask. It should be the mask property in your runtime manager. If you want to do that in CloudHub 1.0, we need to go to mule-artifact.json, and there you need to mention in that secure properties section your property name. Now that is not required here. Simply you can mention the property name under secure properties tag here. That property will be protected for you in runtime manager. It won't be visible, it won't be accessible to anyone else. Okay, this is setting under your Mule Maven plugin. This is not enough. Okay, but in case of CloudHub 1.0, this is enough, right? Now, as I mentioned, our deployment will work in two phases. So we need to update our pom.xml with distribution management also. And this is also given inside our documentation. If you go here down, if you see, it will mention the, I'll just go down somewhere. Okay, so this is a old document. That's the reason they're talking about username and password. Now from October, right? Everything is all Anypoint platform accounts are enabled with MFA. So this is not going to work now. Okay, so they will update some section here to show you the. Okay, so okay, if you search for how to upload the asset to Exchange, right, you will get the distribution management code. You don't need to mug up again. Get the get the documentation for you. In the documentation, they have mentioned v3 URL. This is not working for right now with the CloudHub 2.0. Okay, with the Maven. So you need to go back, degrade to one level down. Use v2 URL. Okay, pass your business group ID. Now I already configured this. If you remember, first thing we did it is this business group ID. So project.group ID, it will come over and sits over here. Since to upload to your exchange, your Maven needs the credential to connect to your exchange, right? So the setting.xml again will be using over here. So same ID, whatever we have mentioned in the setting.xml, same ID. Here the tag is ID, here tag is server. Okay, so keep this in mind. Same setting.xml is getting used to upload assets to the exchange. That's how we have created the connected apps, right? So we have given access to exchange also, we have given access to runtime manager also. So the connected app credentials will be used to upload the assets and to deploy the application. Okay, so let me go with 1.0. So I have deployed same thing. Let's try deploying same thing again and see. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll go. Did I change anything over here? It's asking me to save. Okay, I think I make 2 to 3. So let's save everything.
V2 you made from view 3.
Yeah. V2 I reverted a change back. Okay, so now let's go to the root directory of this project and we'll fire 2 commands. Okay, so let me go to the root directory here. Start the command line from here. Okay, so bring here. So first command, if I directly, let me show you in CloudHub 1.0 what happens if I say maven clean deploy, and then if I say this is the switch which actually plays a role whether to go to runtime manager or whether to go exchange. Okay, this switch, if I pass this switch, then it will try to contact runtime manager. If I don't pass this switch, it will try to contact exchange. Okay, that's how it works. Mule deploy. Now if I fire this command, it will fail. Okay, because I don't have this asset in my exchange. Okay, it will fail. So let's see. So this is the first demo. Okay, we'll try to have more demos. I think I have one number. So it's a starting deploy to this private space, but it's looking for an asset which is not there in the exchange. It will fail now. It should not take this much time. I think it's pause. See here, error. So fail to deploy, and if you go little up, bad request, no application with the provided GAV. GAV is nothing but coordinates. Okay, group ID, asset ID, and version. With these coordinates, there is no asset inside my exchange, because anything you upload to exchange, that will be identified by the unique combination called GAV with this combination, and in other words we call it coordinates of that asset. Okay, so how to get that asset over there? So you remove this part. First we'll fire this command. Now these 2 commands you can use in your CI/CD pipeline, so that your application will get first uploaded to the exchange, and then from there it will get downloaded and deployed to your runtime manager. Now why this they are doing in 2 steps? Okay, anybody is from the runtime fabric background here, guys? Anyone? Can anyone tell me why they are doing like this? Anyone? You can go ahead and post in the chat.
I guess Pradeep was there who have some information, but he's
Okay, I'll give answer to that. Okay, so that also we'll see via demo. Okay, so let's go now. The asset is available. Let's have a look at it. If I refresh it, that asset will be available over here. Okay, you can see now ch2 mmp deployment demo. It's uploaded here. You can see here the version is 1.0.0. Okay, now if I fire the second command, why have to close this? Now if I fire second command, this one, now it will work. Okay, so let's look at our private space now, or let's go to the applications, and right now nothing is deployed over here, right? Now one more interesting thing I wanted to show you guys. So if I go to my the exchange is fine. One more thing I'll try to show you. Let's wait for this deployment. So starting deployment now. to private space. Now everybody is clear with what configuration we are doing, right? So first thing, create connected app. Second thing, configure your setting.xml. Third thing, configure your pom.xml. Okay, only three things you need to configure. Configure pom.xml properly. Make sure you're using proper MVN version. Okay, and properly configure this. Okay, these two things are really important. So distribution management and configuring your Mule Maven plugin. Okay, so it's getting deployed now. You see, it's getting deployed now. If you look at here, okay, I'll ask a question to everyone. Please go ahead and answer in the chat. I always ask this question. Okay, so now let's say I have multiple experience APIs. Okay, I have multiple experience APIs. All are running on, let's say, 8081. All have public access from internet. Now question to everyone, whoever is expert in this area. I want to stop public access to specific API. Okay, all are running, all are experience API, all are having access from public internet. I want to stop access to one of the or selected set of APIs from public internet. Genuine request, right? Sometime you wanted to stop the access from public internet, right? I wanted to access those APIs within my dedicated space. How I can do it this in CloudHub 1.0? Answer quickly. If you need mic, you can go ahead and answer in the mic also. The requirement is clear, right? I have experience API, which are accessible from public internet. Now my requirement is to stop few APIs, the public access to the few APIs. How can we do that in CloudHub 1.0?
Anil says DLB.
DLB. How?
We can use dedicated load balancer.
Dedicated load balancer. How? How will you stop that? So first answer is, okay, I need to redeploy, make a code change the port number for this, port number for this, make a port number 8091 here for both the gates, right? That is the answer. In CloudHub 1.0, there is no other answer. Dedicated load balancer, how? Tell me.
Kalyani mentioned that configure to use private port 8091 or 8092.
That means code change, right?
Yeah.
That means in CloudHub 1.0, it's not that easy. Okay. But look at in CloudHub 2.0, how we can do that. Okay. So let me go. I think it's deployed now. Let's go to my, yeah, it's deployed. Now, if you look at the public endpoint URL, it's empty right now, not enabled. Why? Because I didn't mention my public URL over here. If I show the configuration here in the see here, there's a deployment setting, HTTP inbound public URL. I didn't mention any public URL. I didn't pass any of these properties at all. That's the reason it's empty. Okay, but any point of time I can go ahead here in the ingress level. Okay, now see, I don't have any public endpoint. I can go ahead and say add endpoint. Any point of time I can add. Okay, now if you look at here, I can go ahead and select any one of the URL. Okay, any one of the domain. So this is a default. Again, I can go ahead and say add one more public endpoint. Now this is a second endpoint. I can go ahead and add third endpoint, which is, so now you can see my one application has 3 public URL. All 3 will be accessible. What you need to make a change? You need to go to your domain provider, right, and make that entry, right? When we are configuring this domain, hope you remember. Now the subdomain, you can have multiple choices here. You can go ahead and have app-name, or you can have business-group-id. See here, you have this option also. And in the path, so you have the app hyphen name, you have environment ID, you have business group ID. You can have multiple options here as a subdomain. That flexibility we are getting. Okay. Now, third thing is, so hope everybody is clear. Multiple public URL you can have. You can make your URL specific to your business group ID, specific to environment, specific to app. Okay. Now, one more thing. Let's say your app is accessible on. Let me bring that document. Uh, okay. Let's say your app is running. Hope you are able to see my screen, guys. Let's say your app is reachable on this particular path, v1 hyphen v1 slash API. But publicly, you wanted to say that your app is accessible on this. You want to access your app on this path, but actually it's accessible on this path. This also you can make a change at your ingress tab level. Okay, what you can do, you can add. Let me go back. Are we clear with this? What I'm talking about? So if your app is actually reachable on this path, from your configuration you can make a change and you can say that your app now is accessible on this without redeploying your code, without making any code change at all. Okay, now you'll be able to access on this particular URL instead of this. So you can make a change based on your client. For one client you can give this path, for another client you can give different path, for another client you can give different path. We have seen public URLs. For one client you can give a specific URL, for one client you can give a specific URL. Client one can have merstack.com, client two can have MuleSoft.com, third one can have Guwahati Meetup.com. That way we can do. How to do that? We have already done. We have uploaded our custom domains via TLS context. That's why I'm able to see these many options. Now, one thing I was talking about, now I can add API over here. And if you go down here, path, that v1 slash API, I can add it here. So this will get overridden, rewrite by this guy. So your path now URL will be with this slash API. Okay, so now you see the URL looks like this, but actually the URL was URL was like this. V1, right? Hope that is clear to everyone. It was like this, but intentionally for a specific client, I changed the path also. So I can change the path, I can change the public URL. Okay. Now with this URL, okay, so I can go ahead and apply these changes. Apply the changes. It will redeploy your application. Just wait for it. Okay, any questions on this?
No question on chat.
Okay, guys, make most out of it. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. If definitely these two URLs are not going to work for me right now, merstack.com and this mulemeetup.com, because I didn't do that CNAME mapping. But I told you what has to be there in that CNAME mapping, right? So if you are having this domain names, you buy it and do that mapping, this URL will work for you like champ. Okay. So you don't need to write any routing table. Automatically, this ingress is maintaining that routing table. If you go to the private space, let me go back here. Let it get deployed. It's getting deployed so that we can use that time over here. So if I open my private space, and if you go to DLS here, if I edit any one of them, actually, it maintains the routing table. See here, the route table is there, which is not visible for us. Internally, it's maintaining that route table. Okay. So that domain CNAME mapping will come to this particular public DNS, this one. Okay. Hope everybody is clear with that. So if the application is deployed, yes, it's deployed. Let's take the URL. Now there's many URLs I have. So I'll just copy one of them. How to copy these URLs, man? copy link address, go to your browser. V. Let me check what was the uh, listener path. This is the listener path. Okay, so if you trigger it, no listener. Okay, so I made a mistake. Okay, so I overwrite that path. So it's applicable to all the URLs. Okay, I was not aware of it. Sorry. So what I can do, I can go to ingress and remove this path. And now I'll delete this two also for time being. Okay. So no. Default and apply this. Am I using right one? Yes, I'm using right. So now these changes will get applied. Now, one more thing here, since it is getting deployed, now you can see that the existing deployed version, it's intact and the new pod is getting created for us. And this is because I have configuration here called rolling update. Okay. So if your configuration is rolling update, this is covering that zero downtime. Now let me explain these two options. We have something called rolling update and we have something called recreate option here. So rolling update is something, let's say your application is deployed on this worker under this pod. Now when you are restarting, right, then the new pod will be created on a different availability zone. This is still active. This is still accessing the request. This pod will be created. Entire copy will be deployed over here. Once this is ready, up and running, this will get dismantled. And this pod will be serving all the requests. This is your rolling update. Provided you have proper unused vCores available in your bank. So for example, you bought a license for 6 vCores. Now 2 vCores are consumed by this worker, 2 vCores are consumed by this worker. Okay, here your deployment will work like a champ. You have space, we have free space till 2 workers are available, 2 vCores are available. So your rolling update will work like a champ here, no problem. Okay. Now think about this scenario. Now you are having license for 6 vCores. Now you have a EKS cluster because we are talking about CloudHub 2.0, so everything will be in EKS cluster. Now 2 vCores are consumed by this, 2 vCores are consumed by this, 2 vCores are consumed by this guy, and all 6 vCores are exhausted. All applications are deployed, they all are consuming all 6 vCores. Now, if you are trying to deploy new application, to your cluster, that will fail because you don't have vCores available. Okay. Now, second option, even you have rolling update, you have a recreate option. Both option will fail. But in same scenario, if you are making change to the existing application, okay, if you are making change to existing application and if your deployment model is rolling update, in that case also it will fail, because rolling update, what it does, it keep that pod as it is and it try to create a new pod, but there is no space available, there is no vCore available.
Okay, seems like we lost him again. Just give me a few minutes. I'll just confirm with him. Sorry guys, again there is some power issue. Just give me 2-3 minutes more. Yeah, Shish.
Hey, I'm really, really sorry, man. I don't know. It's heavily raining in Chennai, man.
Okay. No worries, no worries, right? We can see you now. Are you there? Hello? Yeah,
First time this.
no problem.
Hey, what happened?
You are in the meetup.
I am in Meetup on why this. Uh,
Try to rejoin, maybe.
refresh. Share. Now I'm fine. Okay, right? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Sorry about this, guys. Okay, it's not. I know it's not expected. Okay. So, yeah. So, yeah, I think we are here. So rolling update will also fail in that case, but recreate will work. Okay. So what I was talking about, if you are making any changes to the existing application, the what recreate does, it actually deletes that pod, create space, and then recreate the pod again. Okay, so wherever it finds the space, it will recreate that pod, and you'll be able to see for existing application. If you are deploying new application, both options will fail. If you don't have space, if you don't have workers available. Okay, one more concept is there, which is with self-managed Kubernetes. Okay, and I'm not sure whether that is supported by CloudHub Kubernetes because the infrastructure in the backend is RTF only. Now let's say I have two workers in my cluster. Now my license is 6 vCore. 2 vCores are exhausted by this guy, 2 vCores are exhausted by this guy. There is no space on these workers. Now I want to deploy new application. Okay, that is actually a Kubernetes concept, which is called auto scaling. Auto node. Okay, node auto scaling option. What do you mean by this? Node auto scaling is nothing but if there are two workers which are exhausted, now what will happen? New worker will be created for you automatically in this particular cluster, and automatically will be attached to this guy. That is Kubernetes concept, and which is supported by only self managed Kubernetes. Okay, there is a variant for RTF which support this option. Okay, not I'm not sure whether it's supported by CloudHub 2.0 also. So we'll come to know that in future, right? this option is there or not. Okay, that is called node auto scaling. Auto scaling is there on ingress load balancer level, but not at worker level. That information I don't have. Okay, but definitely to create new worker, you need to have unused vCore in your bank. Then only you'll be able to support this option. Hope that is clear to everyone. If I go back here, these are the two options: recreate and rolling update. Now, if you notice here in the runtime, I already mentioned above 4.3.0 and replicas, it is exactly similar to the number of workers in the CloudHub 1.0. And we have option here. If I go beyond 1, we can run these replicas in cluster mode. Okay, so let's go ahead and make this change. Let's go ahead and say recreate. Now look at this. Okay, so now if I say apply changes, what will happen? It will delete the existing replicas. Okay, let's have a look at it. It will first delete this. Yeah, say that is deleted, and now 2 replicas are getting created, and these replicas will be running in cluster mode. Okay, so that's the difference between rolling update and recreate. Recreate will delete first, and then it will try to deploy application. Okay, now if you notice in the cloud of 1.0, this option will always be enabled. All Mule for applications, without this option disable, you cannot deploy in cloud of 1.0. That they have fixed it here. In your Mule for application, even if you are not using object store, you need to enable this option, then only you'll be able to deploy your application to the cloud of 1.0. So that issue is fixed over here. Now, if your application doesn't have object store, you don't need to select it. Okay. Now, if you don't have object store in your application, if you go back to the object store view over here, in Cloud 1.0, we used to get client ID, client secret here, even if you don't have anything in your object store, but that is also fixed here. If you don't have anything in your object store, your client ID, client secret won't be visible over here. Okay, that's a few observation from my side. Okay, now this is deployed. Now quickly, what we'll do, we'll go ahead and see one more demo over here. The demo was for this, right? If I have multiple experience APIs and few APIs, I wanted to stop access from public internet, and how easy that is in CloudHub 2.0. Okay, so now let's say these two APIs, I don't want to allow public access to this two, which was there earlier. Now I don't want to make any code change. I just go and change some configurations, and I'll stop this public access to these APIs. In Cloud 1.0, definitely you need to run on 8091 and then use dedicated load balancer. That is expensive process. Okay, and now that is very cheap in Cloud 2.0. Let's go back. Let's see whether it's deployed. Okay, it's deployed now. If I go and trigger this, we are able to see the output. Right now, how to stop access? Now, right now, this app is accessible from public internet, right? Let's go back here and let's go to ingress. Now we can delete this public URL. Okay, the moment you delete public URL, it's the same concept for runtime fabric also. You need to delete that ingress load balancer URL from there, ingress control URL. Now here, what the moment I've deleted, it's gone. No public access to this particular application. Okay, again it will redeploy it, and if you see, let me refresh, it's not deployed yet, so this access will be stopped. Now how to access this? Very simple. Go ahead and create one more app, and you can go ahead here, and under your app, what you can do, you can use that. I'll show you what URL you can use now. So if you go back here, every app will be having more than minimum one public URL. Minimum, why I'm saying minimum public one URL, you can have multiple URLs for your app. Every app will have private endpoint. If you are deploying it to the shared space, you won't be able to access this. and you you won't be able to delete your public URL. Since I have deployed it to a private space, I have option to edit even public URL and delete even public URL. Okay. Now go ahead and copy this private URL. Each application will have private URL. You can use this private URL. Okay. Pass on here, Control V. Okay. And then get the Control C. Go ahead here. Pass it here. Okay. Save everything. You can go ahead and deploy this, and you'll be able to see the proper output which is expected from okay. So if I go ahead now and since it's deployed now, if I go and trigger that URL, it will throw you error. See, it's not accessible. Now the way to access it is, you can go ahead and say deploy application, select that application, jars, private app access, give a name. I don't want to change any properties. Okay, just go ahead and deploy. So we are getting default domain. Just go ahead and deploy it. Okay. Now the application which we have deployed earlier, right? We deleted the public URL for that application. If you remember from our form.xml, we have uploaded two properties, right? HTTP.port and HTTPS.port. Now, if you look at this, HTTP.port was normal property and HTTPS.port was the secured property. Now have a look at it, see the difference. Now in CloudHub 2.0 here itself in the UI, they have given option to make it protected. If I make it protected, it won't be visible. Nobody will be able to access this. Clear, everyone? Okay. So we have seen deployment target app. We have seen ingress, what all we can do at the ingress level. I'll talk about these two options later. Okay. Two more demos are pending, so I'll cover this also. But in deployment target, we talked about runtime, we talked about replica size, we talked about one more important thing in the replica size. Now we have option to have 0.5. It was not there earlier in the CloudHub 1.0. Okay. And now maximum we can go till 4 vCores in CloudHub 2.0. In case of CloudHub 1.0, we can go till 16 vCores. Clear? Number of replicas, you can have 8. Number of replicas, you can have maximum 8. This 8 number is magical in MuleSoft world, okay? In server group also, you can have maximum 8. In cluster also, you can have maximum 8. The maximum worker you can create on CloudHub is 8. Number of replicas also you can create 8. So this is a magical number in MuleSoft community, okay? 8. Hope that is clear to everyone. One more option, if you go for runtime fabric, there is an option to deploy replicas in different availability zones. That was a bug in runtime. I don't know, it's a bug or something. So if you are deploying app to app, there is a chance in runtime fabric, both the replicas will get deployed in same availability zone. So that's the reason they have given a checkbox, because in past they have seen that both the apps were deployed, both the replicas were deployed in same availability zones. So that issue is fixed in CloudHub 2.0 also. Now there is no option to select and say that deploy these replicas in different availability zones. That is taken care by CloudHub 2.0. So I'm just comparing with RTF, I'm just comparing with the CloudHub 1.0 so that you'll get clear picture. Okay. So this, any questions on this, Abhishek?
Not in particular, but Shubham is asking deploying to CloudHub 2.0 using Anypoint CLI is available now or yet to come?
It's okay. So you can go ahead and Anypoint CLI is also updated. Now I have uploaded one video on that also. Anypoint CLI version 4. Okay. Now for CloudHub, okay. So in the last meetup also I have shown deploying via sorry. So okay, let's go back and now let me check that the private one is deployed or not. Okay, it's also deployed. Now if I go ahead and try to access this URL, go here, Control V, and the what is the resource path, private app. Okay, so you can see that the output is coming from your app, which doesn't have any public URL now. Okay, and I was saying that this URL, the private URL for your um, app, right? Whatever we are given here in the requester.
Ashish, have you shared your change your screen because I can see only sandbox. Is it only for me or else anyone?
We are not able to see.
So I see only your sandbox where.
No, we are able to see
Okay,
when you're changing.
Okay,
okay,
okay. Just so I think from your side, Abhishek,
okay.
just to refresh it. Okay. So if I go ahead and trigger this URL, right? This URL is a private URL. It won't be accessible from the internet. Okay. Just like our Mule worker internal URL, similar way we are getting this URL. Okay. Now let's do two more demos quickly. So one demo, if you remember, when we created our private space, what we say is, like, okay, outgoing traffic I'll allow only on HTTPS. Okay. So I have created one app which is having two requests. One is going on HTTP, another is going on HTTPS. So let's deploy this application under our private space and see this path won't allow this endpoint will be able to give us the output. Okay, let's see quickly. So hope this is clear, right? So HTTP requester, I'm trying to access HTTP. I'm trying to send the traffic on HTTP protocol. First flow. Second flow, I'm trying to send the or trying to call the HTTPS API. Okay. So let's go ahead and quickly deploy this on our private space. Now, if you notice, when I'm deploying it from runtime manager, I don't need to go to Exchange and upload that, right? Runtime manager is taking care of uploading these assets to the Exchange automatically. But if you're doing from Anypoint CLI or from Maven, we need to take care of it. Okay. So yes, rule. This is, yeah, I don't want to change anything at the ingress level. Properties, there are no. Go ahead and deploy application. Hope that is what. So if you compare with CloudHub 1.0, the deployment will be very fast because it's going in Kubernetes container, right? It's a container based deployment, so it will be very fast as compared to CloudHub 1.0. Okay, since we are on log page, one more thing I wanted to discuss here. So you'll be able to see each deployment will be identified by some unique ID. So this is called build ID, or we can say unique ID for each deployment. Over here you see config 7A 7C 1E. Now this 7A 7C 1E, I'll tell you how important this one. Okay. Now you'll see some logs over here. Now in CloudHub 2.0, you cannot track logs via correlation ID. Okay, that is there in their roadmap. They will fix it. Right now, you won't be able to track via correlation ID. I heard somewhere that is 200 MB. I still didn't, cross check with anyone. I I attended the sessions, and there they were saving right 200 MB for locks and or 100 days. Okay, whichever comes first. Sorry, 30 days, 1 month, or 200 MB. But here in the logs it says 30 days and 100 MB only. Okay, I read it. I don't have any proof that it's 200 MB or 100 MB. Okay, so I don't have any comment on this. I'll try to get the correct information, but somewhere I heard 200 MB for CloudHub 2.0. Okay. Okay. Once this is deployed, we'll cross check whether we are able to send. It's deployed now. So let's take these two URLs. Copy this URL, link address. If I go here, control V, try to send, try to access users. It's not allowing me. So it's blocking over there because of the outbound firewall rule. Now, same tab, same URL. If I try to get the data for Google, which is running on HTTPS, it will give me output. Okay. So this is how you can block your outgoing traffic based on your requirement. So the HTTP traffic is not allowed. HTTPS traffic is allowed. Okay. Now let's talk about two things. Okay. Any questions, Abhishek?
One question on the security part. Can we secure or protect property from artifact file like we do in CH 1.0? In CloudHub 1, in artifact, we can give the secure one, no? The keys to secure
Yes,
our.
I didn't try it, but I'll try it. So this is what you're saying, right? Mule hyphen artifact.json. This is what you're saying.
Yeah, in this we used to give that.
Okay, I didn't try this. I have tried this way, right? I showed you.
Yeah,
So in the
directly.
form.xml, I added this. Okay, this option was not there in CloudHub 1.0, right? So whatever is not there in the CloudHub 1.0, that's what I wanted to show here. But I didn't try whatever is there in CloudHub 1.0, whether that is still working. Okay, so maybe I'll try it and maybe I'll update you. Okay. Okay. See, very clear. This is not. See here, connection timeout. You can see clearly. It's not reachable. It's reachable. So whatever output is coming, right? This is coming from www.google.com. Correct. Let's close this. Close this. Close this. Close this. Okay. Now next two things I wanted to try, which are again important concepts. So one is port forwarding. How the port forwarding works. Now, for every private space, you will get ingress load balancer, right? So ILB, which is free, which is configurable. Okay. Now, if you are sending traffic on HTTP from your REST client or any application, if you are sending traffic on HTTPS, so this guy use a default port called 80. Right? Everybody is aware of it. Nothing new here. And this guy uses a 443. Hope this is clear to everyone. When you send traffic from your REST client, the port number is used 80, and here port number is used 443. In case of CloudHub 2.0, both ports are get mapped to 8081 only. No 8082 concept in CloudHub 2.0. No 8091, no 8092. This is again an RTF concept. Okay. So if your application is running on 8082, can I access it from outside? Can I access it via ingress load balancer? Okay. Answer is no. But can I access sorry within our private space, within our Mule application? Yes, we can do that. Okay. So it's not like that I cannot run any application on port number 8082. The answer is from outside we cannot access, but from within our private space, within the application, I can access it. Let me show you the demo. Okay. And one more concept I want to discuss. Okay. So let's say I'm sending traffic on HTTPS to my ingress load balancer. and this is my app which is running on 8081, because HTTPS also accessible over 8081. Okay, only one port. Now at this level, ingress level, there is a property called last mile security. If I don't check this, now my SSL will get dropped over here itself. It won't pass on that to the app. That means my app won't be accessible at all. Because we are trying to access on HTTPS, it's getting dropped over here. It won't be accessible. My app won't get accessible. If I check this checkbox, there is a checkbox called last mile security. If you go here, go to ingress level, there is an option called last mile security. I'll talk about this, what is forward SSL session. Okay, last mile security. If I uncheck, I won't be able to access my app which is running on HTTPS. If I check this checkbox, my load balancer, ingress load balancer, will transfer that same HTTPS connection to my app, and I will be able to access. Okay, let's go ahead and quickly see this demo. So I'll try to show you both 8082 and last mile security. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to deploy. I have an app. Okay, so this is done. This is okay. We'll talk about this later. So I have app which is one-way SSL. Okay, because I cannot configure two-way SSL on my index load balancer right now, because I need to pass the client certificate and all that. So I have just configured one-way SSL. Okay, where hope everybody is aware of one-way SSL means. So I'm just configuring my key store for this server. Okay, and first one is running on port number 8082 HTTPS protocol. If you see the TLS, I have configured only key store. This is one-way SSL. Okay, then I have second flow, which is again one-way SSL, same configuration, but this guy is running on 8081. Okay, both endpoints are published on HTTPS. One is reachable on 8081, one is reachable on 8082. Let's deploy this application on our CloudHub 2.0. So one SSL. Okay, so ingress, I'm not passing this checkbox right now. Let's deploy this. Okay, okay, since it is getting deployed, I have created one more app to show you. If you see this is a server which is running on 808 port. Okay, still running on HTTPS, and I have one flow which is actually accessing this guy. Okay, so if I quickly go here, so I have application, one flow I have here, flow 1, which is running on 8082. I have second flow which is running on 8081. But internally this flow is calling this guy. So that means this flow is this flow is also running, this flow is also running. But this, we know that, right? If the flow is running on 8081, from outside it won't be accessible. But within the application it's accessible. That is what I wanted to show. Okay. So let's go back. Let's see, it's deployed. Yes, deployed. So what was that? One SSL, right? Copy this URL. Go ahead. Copy. Control V. So one server is running on server -8082. If I trigger this, it's not accessible. Okay. If I say server 8081 one way SSL. Yeah. Okay, both the guys are not accessible right now. They are simply saying this page isn't working. Okay, why? Because the traffic is coming on HTTPS. Since the last mile security option is not checked, the traffic is getting dropped here itself. Okay, now let's quickly go back and go to ingress level. Check this checkbox, apply changes. Okay, it will deploy. Meanwhile, we'll deploy that application also, which okay. And deploy the other application, which is accessing internally 808 to SSL. Hope I am within time. Give me 5 extra minutes, guys, because of that power shutdown, I was not able to. Simply, I'm not enabling any last mile security for this app. Okay. So changes are applied now on one-way SSL. So let's go ahead and try to access the server which is running on 8081. We are able to see the output. Okay, the server which is running on 8082, it will simply say that the endpoint is. If you remember, it will try to map it to the port number called 8081 only. And on 8081, this server is not reachable. So this endpoint is not going to be listened. Clear? But the same thing, if I'm trying to access within the application, which we are going to do now. So two-way SSL, the client will try to access the server which is running on 8082. Okay, so yeah, once this is deployed, we'll quickly go back to the presentation. And we'll talk about the limitations. Okay, just give me 5 minutes. Okay, it's deployed now. So if I copy this URL, copy link address, come on, Control V, and my resource path is client. I'm trying to access this, save. If I open this, see, hello Mule is coming from the app which is running on port number 808. So that means we can run the Mule flows on 8082, but the point is those won't be accessible from outside because of port forwarding. And we cannot change that port forwarding inside any of the load balancer, whether shared load balancer, dedicated load balancer, or ingress load balancer. Nowhere we can change anything. Okay, so that's all as part of demos, guys. Hope I have tried my best to show you. The only last option I want to show you, I can't show the demo on this forward SSL session. This is for two-way SSL. If you want to send the client certificate also, okay, client certificate also with your request, then this is the option forward SSL. Last mile security to get the server certificate. Okay, if you want to send the client certificate to your Mule app, then this is the checkbox. Okay, this checkbox for getting the server certificate, this checkbox to send the client certificate, this checkbox to override the path, and these options to add the public URLs. Okay, so that's all for demo point of view. If any questions, I can take pause here quickly, and in 5 minutes I will complete my PPTs. Any questions, Abhishek? I know
No
that, and
question.
really sorry I took time.
No worries. Sometimes it happens, and basically it happens when we
Yeah,
give demo. That's
yeah.
fine.
Any questions?
No questions. Just Prativa mentioned like thank you for this
Okay.
knowledgeable session.
Okay, guys. So whatever we have discussed, I'll just quickly walk you through. So if you remember, this all options we have discussed over there, right? So it is fully managed by MuleSoft. It's a container-based isolation, and we'll get multi-tenancy. We'll get single tenancy over here. So we go with the shared space, you'll get multi-tenancy. If you go with the private space, you'll get single tenancy. Highly available because it's maintained and it's backed up by EKS AWS. Security is enhanced over there. Now we can control the outbound traffic also. As I mentioned, the EKS cluster will be backed up. Your private space or shared space is always backed up by the Docker Kubernetes EKS cluster. Okay, you can have a number of private space under your single tenancy. We have discussed already this. I don't want to mention that. I already talked about static IPs, how that number is controlled by the region and the number of availability zones, right? You can have only Anypoint VPN and transit gateway now to access your data centers. There is no option for VPC peering and AWS Direct. Your control plane and runtime plane, it's a two-way SSL connection, okay, and there'll be always runtime agent available, which will be talking to your runtime plane to distribute the load. Always ingress load balance will come into picture. Okay, all the apps will be running in isolation. Now shared space, private space, hope everybody got this point. Features we talked about. So okay, now we have replicas where we can have zero point 0.5. We can achieve isolation. Okay, as already mentioned, this one. The template, the URL which we get it, right. So if you see the URL, it has a clear the template, your app name, and then it will be suffixed with hyphen unique ID, and the rest of the thing is the public DNS, shard ID and region and cloud.io. Okay, so unique ID, which is 6 digit, always appended to your app name to ensure the uniqueness of the app name. Shard ID again 6 digit, which is belongs to each private space. Okay, so we talked about multi-tenancy, availability, scalability, intelligent healing, the same feature which was there in the CloudHub 1.0. So automatically, if your workers, your pods are not responding automatically, those will restart it. Your Kubernetes will take care of that, restarting your pods, redeploying your applications. We have zero downtime updates. Your CloudHub 2.0 will get updated automatically. Uh, you know, you won't face any downtime for that. Now one very important thing is, I cannot show the demo for that. Whenever you deploy application to your pod, the same application will be deployed on one more pod. That pod won't be visible. That will be in a passive mode. Okay, so whenever if anything goes wrong with this, I'm not saying I'm deploying application on two replicas. Please pay attention over here. Okay, so the redundant pod will be created, the copy will be created for each replicas, and whenever you have any issue with this replica, immediately this will become active. So that is what the difference between the Cloud of 1.0 and Cloud of 2.0. Even for single replica, there will be a redundancy created for your deployment. Okay, that is inbuilt in Cloud of 2.0. That will save you a lot of time. Okay, so if anything goes wrong with this active copy, immediately the passive copy will become active, and then this will get be either deleted or create a redundancy for that. Okay, horizontal scaling, you can increase the number of replicas, and auto scaling, this is in roadmap. Okay, we already talked about this. Okay, what is supported in cloud 1.0 2.0, we have talked about this also. Important changes, so VPC is equivalent to private space, your worker is equivalent to replica now. Here DLB is equivalent to ingress controller now. Public workers cloud is equivalent to shared space. Now, what has been highlighted? So the outbound, definitely outbound traffic firewall rules. ingress controller, which is logs we can download easily, and multiple TLS. Okay, these are at private space level. Application deployment level, we can use the 0.5 concept now. We can use rolling update, recurrent update, and we can have multiple endpoints for single application, and we can use SSL forwarding and last mile security. These are their limitations, or we can say important points. No support for persistent queues, and that is not there in the roadmap also. Okay, 4.3 above is supported. Data graph is not supported. Only HTTP workload is supported by CloudHub 2.0. Flex gateway is not yet supported. It's there in the roadmap. Okay. We cannot deploy it from Studio right now to the CloudHub 2.0. That is there in the roadmap. Anypoint CLI and Mule Maven plugin is updated. So we need to use the latest version of Mule Maven plugin and latest version of CLI, which is our version 4. Okay. And in future, there won't be a concept of vCore. There will be a concept called consumption-based pricing model. Okay. That is what the vision of MuleSoft to bring this Cloud 2.0 into market. Okay. Limitations: private space we can create 100 per organization. VPNs we can create 10. Transit gateway based on your license, but we can create 5. Okay, 10 custom TLS context we can upload. Firewall rules we can create 40, and application size it's equivalent to the CloudHub 1.0, I guess. Okay, 200 MB, and that's all from my side.